Life is not meant to be this stressful. Back then, in a different time period, we didn't have to worry about goals how we worry about them now, or work, or food. It's like you didn't have to worry about getting fat because no one was fat. You weren't going to get fat because what you were eating was not going to result in that. You weren't going to eat enough to get to that weight. Work was not stressful because you knew that the odds of you getting fired were so slim because your job was necessary. Nowadays, we focus on things like how much we're eating because it's so easy to get fat now. Now we're so worried about our jobs today because our jobs are not exactly necessary. Now, with all that being said, I'm not trying to say that life today doesn't have its perks and its benefits. I'm not trying to be that guy, but I think it's just crazy to think of what life was like even 50 years ago for the average American. And in no way am I trying to say that it is not a privilege to live in today's world, but what I am saying is we all stress out way too much about things that we either A, don't need to stress out about, or B, we have way more control of. I'm not trying to be that guy that's saying, hey, living in the 1940s was better because of this and this and that. But I have to point out, back then, they did have simpler lives that led to less stress. If you showed up to work late, your boss wasn't a douchebag. I'm not trying to point out anything or be cringy, but I mean, it's true. They were just different. Dynamics were different. How people treated you were different back then. Family dynamics were a big thing. Families were built better in a lot of ways because of, well, religion, any religion. As much as that may sound wrong to say, it's true. Now, granted, back then there were a lot of stressors that today I'm thankful not to have, and I think you would be too. Modern plumbing. Some people did not have modern plumbing in certain time periods. And I'll be the first to raise my hand and say the argument that I'm making in this video, this entire video, is hypocritical and stupid in a way because I mean, I'm living off of modern luxuries. I'm recording this on an iPhone right now that people even 20 years ago would be, you know, joyful to have, incredibly grateful. But you may be saying, okay, what's the point in this video? Are you just going to keep running over the examples that back then life may have been easier and it was less stressful and life could have just been so much simpler if we stayed back in a time before we had an iPhone and a radio? That is not what I'm getting at. What I am getting at is replicate what they used to do. People in different time periods treated anxiety differently. Now, I'm going to be the first to say nowadays we have it so much better. But this circles back into my point. We're not using it because we're all basically indoctrinated at such a young age to be stressed. And maybe you disagree with some of the things that I'm saying. That's fine. But you have to agree with me. Life is so stressful now. I don't care if you're, maybe that guy's sitting there watching this video and you're saying, okay, well, this guy's just an ungrateful brat and he's just being an idiot. But you at least have to agree with me. Work is stressful for most people. The future is stressful for most people. I hate to be like this, but our cortisol is so high, we can't even wrap our heads around the idea of sitting in the moment, So many people my age, so many people, including me, by the way, I'm not trying to say I'm special. So many people are so anxious and so upset with their environment, and they don't even know it because they've never been calm enough. So I do want to go over some things that can help. And I want people now to be able to enjoy the privileges that we have without the downsides, which is possible. I would say the first step would be you need to understand that these privileges do not give you the right to be stressed. What do I mean by that? Being stressed, I don't remember the statistic, but a lot of Americans do. Okay. Being stressed is a result of your life around you. It's a result of your mindset. And I would say the first big thing that you could do is just look around and just say, I have all of this. I have food, I have water, I have plumbing, AC, heat, whatever. For me, it's as simple as a blanket. I have clothes. Wow, this t-shirt that I'm wearing right now, even thinking about it just off the top of my head, someone, 20 years ago, or not 20 years ago, like 50 years ago, would have been like, this is a really nicely made t-shirt. Well, guess what? These are mass produced. These are produced in the hundreds of thousands of millions, and people get to wear these every day. Even in the poorest countries and worst areas, someone gets a finely knitted shirt that washes easy and has breathable material. Back then, this would have taken days to make, and it wouldn't have lasted as long, and it wouldn't have been as good. This took 20 minutes, and someone profited off of it, and there's a system that ensures the person who made it was paid for their work. And the next thing that you need to do is get rid of the superficial things. Quit worrying about the things that don't matter. I realize now that me personally, I worry about stuff that doesn't matter anymore. I worry about people and dating and all of these things, and it's like people 100 years ago, yes, they were stressed about this stuff, but do you think that, I don't know, Johnny in the town over was so worried about Sally that he was chewing his nails and he was freaking out? No, he saw her on Sunday. He saw her on Friday. No, they called each other. They saw each other at school. I don't care what time period you're thinking of. Their anxiety was not the same as it is now. You need to quit worrying about this superficial bullshit. Listen, I'm not against working hard. I'm not against trying to achieve something materialistically, but I am against focusing on something to the extent that it controls you and it owns you. I hate to reference Fight Club because it's just, honestly, just 18-year-old red pill kind of video. Yeah, it's cringy. But my point is, in that movie, they talk about the things that you want own you. Okay, that's just a big idea in the movie. That's true today. It's scary to think that movie almost predicted. It was in that time period when the movie was being made. The things that we want own us in a way. And it's how much you let it own you that will create that stress. So you really do need to pay attention to what you want. And you need to pay attention. Do you really want this? Do I want this? And another thing as well is, my next thing, why are you so worried about stuff that you A, can't control, but B, doesn't even matter? I see so many people now, including me, by the way, I'm worried about going in and clocking into my shift at work. That doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because nothing bad's going to happen. I'm going to clock in and probably have a normal shift, but I'm so used to being anxious that I have to stress. You have to break this cycle of stress. I've been trying to take a deep breath. I've been trying to be more grateful, and I've been trying to change my mindset. I've tried to focus on things that matter to me, the superficial things that do matter to me. And I've tried to take things and look at them more analytically. And I've tried to say, hey, hold on, I'm clocking into work. What's the point in being stressed right now? I have no indicator to think that today is going to be stressful or terrible. And then I just sit and I breathe. I focus on my downtime and I pay attention to what I do throughout the day.